On to the big one then next weekend. First of all, we'll have a look onto the undercard. It's in Jalisco, Mexico. A bit of a Bellew of the Week belt coming up later on. Eddie Hearn, Eddie Reynoso, and Saul Canelo Alvarez over in Guadalajara. The big fight for Cinco de Mayo. On the undercard, a welcome return, or maybe not so welcome return, Matty, for Alexander Gvozdyk going in against the aforementioned Ricard Bolotniks. We last saw Gvozdyk. Well, actually, I tell a lie. I was going to say the last time I saw him, he was getting the shit beaten out of him by Artur Beterbiev. But in early 2023, February no less, he got a win in Pomona, 6 rounds against Jose Obando. Is he just bored with boxing? I know he likes a cigar and playing the guitar, Matty, a bit like yourself. Is he coming back for any particular reason, do you think?
Can Beterbiev put him in the hospital for 3 days? What's
That's
he doing?
What I thought as well. He got a brain injury.
He was in bad shape. But I mean, Katsita sent fucking Zarov and sought to the fucking hospital to brain bleed, and I think he might still be fighting today, and fucking Katsitas isn't.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm interested to see Gvozdyk come back. Because I truly think, I mean, looking back at all the fights in Gvozdyk's championship period, or Beterbiev's championship period, I think Gvozdyk gave him the best fight of everyone. I think he might have even been up after 7 rounds or so. He was a really quality fighter, good fluid movement. So it'll be interesting to see him come back. But I mean, just based on that inactivity and coming back, I mean, it's probably wouldn't be stupid to just put literally a couple of dollars on Bolotniks just to pull a huge upset, just because he's been out of the ring for so long, and Bolotniks, limited as he is, can punch a bit. So we'll see, but I'd like to see Gvozdyk back if he's in a good place and see what he can do. I'd never want to see him against Beterbiev again, but other than that, I would be curious to see what he's capable of, because he was a truly impressive fighter during his day, and that fight between him and Beterbiev, I mean, that really was, if I recall at that time, the fight between the 2 top dogs in the division, and I think it was a fight that delivered in that aspect too.
MB says there's a good Kazakh on this undercard. Amankul, absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Abil Khan Amankul is going in against a guy called Frosto. Also, Beck Nurmagomedov, 9-0 with 7 knockouts. He's going against Argenis Espana, who's not a bad fighter, actually. So there's some pretty tasty ones on the undercard.
Was that the kid that hurt Garcia in sparring?
Well, I thought he was at first, but apparently he was Mongolian, so I'm not really sure if it's the same guy. I actually thought the same as you, Matty. But I'll tell you what, there's no mixing up this guy. A Poundland Devin Haney, if ever I saw one. Devin Haney with turkey teeth. It's Lawrence King, 11-1, 9 knockouts.
Jesus, look at the teeth, man. That's Shergar revisited that, eh?
Yeah, the dog, as they
call
himself.
Party off. Jesus Christ.
Shout out to Lawrence. Good luck to him on the evening. And Matty, just before we go to Andy on the next fight, actually, I was going to mention one to you because I know you kind of be watching these guys. Steve Spark, an Australian, 16-2, the Viking, last seen a disqualification win over Montana Love. But more interestingly than not, I know you saw this fight as well as I did. His opponent, Gabriel Golaz Valenzuela, is an absolutely live dog in this one. He went over to Canada on I think it was the Bazinian Alantas Fox undercard, and absolutely buried Evie Elise Jr. with a left hook in the first round. This guy's a live dog, man. I think he might bang Spark out, actually.
Well, they both fought Montana Love. Obviously, Spark was beating the crap out of Love, and that's why Love threw him out of the ring, found his way out of that fight. Valenzuela fought Love very close. Some argue that he could have nipped that fight. He sent Love to the canvas as well. The thing is, this is a really interesting fight. And, Spark is kind of an underrated fighter. You look at his record, you see his loss. But, he lost to Tim Tszyu, 2 weight classes north of where these fights have been contested and where this one's going to be contested as well. So this is, an Aussie that can absolutely bang. Valenzuela, also a really good puncher, and he's there to fight. My hunch, Steve, is that this is going to end up being the fight of the night for that Canelo Alvarez undercard. So make sure you catch this one.
Looking forward to it. Make sure you catch that one, Andy. Plus the chief support, Julio Cesar Martinez. He came in heavy around this time last year, actually, against Chocolatito, lost the WBC super flyweight title, picked it back up again with a majority decision win over Samuel Carmona. He's defending this against Ronald Batista, who's a Panamanian, has been stopped once. No, not familiar with his work, to be honest. I think every fight he's had is in Panama. A bit of a mandatory defence. I know that Martinez had his problems with the weight, Andy, but at his best, he was a front forward, wild punching, heavy-handed kind of a guy. And I think he'll get rid of Batista.
Yeah, probably will, mate. I'm the same as you. I don't know much about Batista, so he could be anything really. But you expect with Martinez's high pressure and that he'll end up doing the business. Again, no, you just wonder maybe the Gonzalez beating might come up at some point. You know, it might catch up with him. You know, he's undisciplined. He dumps a lot of weight, as you mentioned, and that. So again, it might just catch up with him. You just never know. But I would think Eddie's kind of like made this fight on the. I don't know if it was a mandatory defence, so if he gets us out of the way, then I dare say Eddie would be trying to make the Son Edwards unification. I would imagine that would be the plan anyway. So yeah, I'll probably go with Martinez, maybe with a late stoppage. That's purely based off anything I've seen in this Batista guy, to be fair, who I did notice had went 12 rounds with Mikko Aloyan, the Russian. So he has got some sort of kind of championship experience as such, but whether it's, Aloyan's more kind of pure boxer, whereas Martinez is just a pure brawler at the end of the day.
Aloyan, who fought Tete in the World Boxing Super Series.
I think so, aye.
Yeah, he's a strange fighter, isn't he? Seems to have gone off the radar a little bit.
Yep. So, yeah, different styles, but I think Martinez will probably break him down, maybe stop him around about the light half part of that fight, possibly. Like you, I'm surprised to see Gvozdyk back fighting, actually. I know he had some sort of tune-up earlier on in the year, maybe late last year, or whatever it was, but I don't know what he's wanting to do. Actually, maybe he's just wanting to get himself back in the mix, fighting for a wee bit of money and that, but it's a hard one, because after that Viterbi fight, it was, you say, it was a bad beating, broken down, put in the hospital for 3 days, concussed. Usually, the type of fights are kind of like enough to kind of, especially when you retire off the back of it, it tends to think that you know yourself, that you've had enough, really. But
especially after what he did to Stevenson as well, so it's not like he hasn't seen at first hand the consequences.
Yeah, no. So it's an odd one, so it'd be interesting. It wouldn't be against the realms of possibility if Bolotnik's actually even gets the win. Actually, to be fair, I know he's not great, but he can punch. He's strong enough.
Yeah, comes forward.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? He comes forward. He's Adam Smith says, he's rugged and tough. So we'll wait and see. But it's just an odd one, that one, actually, to be fair.
Yeah, he comes to fight, Bolotnik's a phrase I always love in boxing. He comes to fight, where you'd like to think so. Although some of these journeymen, you just never know. Teacher Sonny D says, my Guadalajaran friend said the cheapest ticket is $18. Reasonable. Hopefully, was it Sean McElroy who was messaging us there the other day? Hopefully he's got a ticket, if indeed he wants to go. Before we get on to that main event, though, Ozzy, anything from the undercard, from what we spoke about, that sort of tickles your fancy?
Yeah, well, it's decent, actually. I'm just looking at the prices. So Steve Spark is the favourite, odds-on favourite as well in that fight. And going back to the other one, Kaisi Benjamin also. So Sean McComb is the favourite as well. So probably looking at a double, actually, for Valenzuela and Benjamin. Pays just under 5-1, which I think you're definitely going to get a run for your money there in both. Both opponents are certainly live. I remember that Valenzuela. He's going to be hard work for Spark, but again, he can also dig as well. So I think you might be right, Matty, when you said it could be fight of the night, because I think we always say styles make fights, and you look at these two, and you just think, how's it not going to gel? But yeah, I thought, in typical Hearn fashion, usually, when he's got basically a guaranteed sellout, of which this was, he usually just tosses the undercard off and doesn't really give a fuck, really. But it's actually not bad, like the Gvozdyk, Bolotnik's, it's a fight that doesn't need to be made, but is decent and, pads out that undercard nicely. I don't particularly rate the Martinez opponent. I think he'll bang him out relatively quickly, actually. But yeah, all in all, it's pretty decent. And yeah, I think the atmosphere will just be unbelievable over there. I mean, do we know what the capacity or the crowd they're expecting? Are we looking at is it North? Is it based? I can't remember. Is it in like a stadium or something like that?
Yeah, Estadio Akron. Let's see.
What would be? They're not going. It's got to be something like what, 60K or something like that. They're not going over there to take Canelo into a 30,000.
46,500.
All right, okay, right. So yeah, it'd be some atmosphere, won't it?
Jesus Christ! Imagine fighting Canelo in front of. I remember saying to fucking talking to Joey Gamachi before, and he was telling me, I said, what was the toughest moment of your career? He said, fighting Julio Cesar Chavez in front of 35,000 Mexicans.
Imagine Greg Hogan. Didn't have to fight him in front of like 130,000 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Something crazy like that.
It's probably more harmful for John Ryder to beat Canelo than to get knocked out by Canelo.
Oh, you might be well right there. Ozzy, seeing as you're unmuted, we might as well go with you first of all to the main event then. A few people thinking that John Ryder might have not a chance of winning, but maybe look good against Canelo possibly. Where does Ryder fit in with the kind of recent Brits that Canelo has gone in against? You know, your Billy Joe Saunderses, your Callum Smiths. Where do you put him chance-wise amongst those guys?
I give him a better chance. I always gave Billy Joe Saunders the biggest chance of beating Canelo. I just thought he had a style that would work. It did fade a little bit. I always thought at 160 Canelo, I thought Saunders would win. Thought 168, it detracted from Saunders. I never really gave Callum Smith a chance whatsoever. Obviously not Rocky Fielding. I still say that Liam Smith put in one of the. I know he ended up with him. Actually, to a body shot, funnily enough, KO'd on the floor. But I thought Smith, for a guy that, no one really gave him any opportunities, and he had a bag cut in sparring, but still proceeded, actually, landed some shots on Canelo and boxed reasonably well in that. And, he didn't just come in to try and survive. It's tough because you've got to break it down. Is John going to stop him? No. And do you honestly believe, even just from a judge's perspective, will he get a decision over there? I think he would need to win clearly 10 of the 12 rounds to get a decision over there, and I still think it'd be closer as well. I wouldn't say it's impossible because it is boxing and anything can happen, but I liken this to, people going over to box, like the Klitschko's in Germany, and essentially you needed to do like a Tyson Fury, of which I had Fury a clear winner in that. And even then, that was still close on the cards. But on a point of some people giving him a chance and looking good, I'm one of those as well. I think it'll go the distance. I don't think he'll get Ryder out of there. And I think Ryder's going in it with everything to gain and nothing to lose. We've had him on this podcast countless amount of times, and he's an incredibly laid-back character who doesn't really seem to be deterred by anything. He's had his setbacks. They came earlier in his career, where he went through some difficult times. You forget that he's boxed bigger people before, and he should have had that win over Callum Smith. So I don't think the size is going to play any difference whatsoever. And I don't think John is a huge, huge super middleweight, but I don't think he's a small super middleweight either. So I actually looked at him as a face-to-face, and I think John is actually slightly taller, and he does look naturally the bigger guy as well. I think he'll look to get up close. I don't think he'll try and, somewhat outbox him, and I think he'll try and, work inside on him. Look to land the shots that way and make it rough and rugged is probably not the correct description completely, but try and make it a bit physical. Make Canelo work, because you've seen that he's not Mr. Invincible. John has not got the style like Bivol from where he can reflect that, but he's got his own style that has worked for him. Since coming up to super middleweight, and you can argue that since he's made the jump up to 168, he really, his defeat shouldn't have come against Callum Smith. He should have beaten Callum Smith. And realistically, you look at the fighting that he should have suffered defeat, and it's probably Danny Jacobs. Many people felt Jacobs was the correct winner in that, and he got a decision on the cards. Whereas in the Smith fight, I think 99% of people who watched it felt Ryder should have come away with the win. So I think it's an incredibly difficult task, more so because of location, who Canelo is, and he's got pretty much the best chin in the business. And while John can dig, I don't see him being able to budge him. No, I've not seen. If Golovkin's not making a dent in you, not many people are really. So I think it's a fight from where I think he'll certainly, have his moments. I think he'll have success. I do think he'll win rounds. I just think it's a step too far with where it is. But I think again, regardless of the result, unless he chooses to retire, it won't be career over, because there'd be no shame in falling short against, someone like Canelo. And again, it's the performance you put in. If he goes out there, boxes, the fight of his life, and say, it is closer, and he gets, not jobbed, but the cards are embarrassing, the attention goes to the judges again, and he will get opportunities off the back of that straight away. It's a massive opportunity for him. You're not going to turn it down. I do think Canelo will probably win a decision, but I think John has got, does have a style from where he can win rounds, be successful, and certainly put on, a more of an impressive performance.
Certainly. Rob's back with us there, Rob. I was going to ask you, actually, Ozzy touched upon a couple of the points about Ryder's recent fights. He lost to Callum Smith, but obviously he got more out of that fight, I think, than Smith did, because of the tight nature, the close nature of the decision. He sneaked past Danny Jacobs. Then there was the kind of Zach Parker fiasco. John has kind of stumbled into this fight somehow, by fair means or foul.
Yeah, I think he probably should have correctly got the decision against Callum Smith, and that would have set up this fight a lot earlier. There was fights along the way that were potential banana skins. Probably got to look at the rub of the green against Danny Jacobs, and then I think was getting on top of Parker anyway in that fight, even though I expected to cause him more trouble. And the way, he's played the long game, and nobody could deny that John Ryder deserves this fucking payday. Probably deserves it more than any British fighter. Some of the guys that have gone by have been cannon fodder. I mean, Rocky Fielding's another guy he got jobbed against, offered nothing against Canelo. Callum Smith offered nothing against Canelo. Billy Joe got smashed by Canelo. So Ryder's thereabouts. He's been on the scene for fucking nearly 10 years, and he had setbacks at middleweight. He's proved so much to so many people that, as Ozzy said, records are for DJs, but the record doesn't matter. He got himself together. I think the knockout defeats came at 60. Or the defeats came at 60, and he hasn't looked really like losing a fight at 68, apart from the Jacobs one. He looks stronger. He doesn't look like he's going to get knocked out. Having said that, and if he wins, obviously I'd be fucking hyping up the family links. I'm going to be at every fucking family reunion in London for the next fucking 10 years if he beats Canelo. But I don't see it, and I actually think he might get stopped. I think he might get stopped in Mexico. I think the occasion is going to be very, very big, and I think he'll cope well up until the later rounds. But I actually see a Canelo stoppage here down the line.
Canelo stoppage for Rob. It might turn up on the prediction league, or it might not, Matty. Some people are looking at Ryder here as a bit of a fatted calf. Maybe not so much us, but some of the Americans. Canelo's Cinco de Mayo money collecting operation is going ahead for one more year. He's one of the best operators in the sport financially, alongside Gervonta now. Probably he's out on his own pretty much, Canelo. Hoovering up a bit more money on Cinco de Mayo. So cynical, Matty, is that your kind of thinking?
Man, my thoughts on this fight, just in general, Steve, I guess it's that I'm with the guys in the fact that great on John Ryder for getting this payday. Couldn't happen to a better guy. He's been nothing but good to us. He's going to put himself in a position where his family's taken care of if he chooses to never box another round again, right? So good on him. Couldn't happen to a better guy. What Oz said, if he tries to do that and try to make it rough on Canelo inside, he's going to get demolished inside of 6 rounds. Nobody has come at Canelo at tight quarters and gotten away with it in recent memory. People have had to kind of do their business at distance. Mid-range, inside, Canelo will fuck you up. Bivol, what he did is he landed combinations from the outside and kept Canelo's hands at home. I just feel like this fight is going to end as quickly as they decide between the two of them, because Canelo's going to be ready to put it together and land something hard. as soon as John gives him the opening. So we'll see how cautious he wants to be. But simultaneously, I think John knows that the only way he has any goddamn chance at nipping these titles away from Canelo, he's going to have to knock him out. So however long this might last, I think it's going to be a pretty damn good time. I think both guys are going to land some shots, and I think Ryder just might provide one crazy moment in the fight that gets some people on the edge of their seat, like, oh shit. But I do think that when it does go to war, it's only a matter of time before Canelo decides to or finds the opening that's going to end it all. So I'm thinking probably Canelo inside of 8. I'm curious what the over-under is. I might look at that while the rest of you are yapping.
I was going to ask you actually, Matty, what's the over-under on John getting further than the mighty Avni Yildirim?
I think people have to think he's going to do better than Yildirim.
Yildirim's a good fighter, man. A lot of good predictors thought Yildirim was pretty good.
Yeah, some people thought he might win the Super Series. It was he had his moment in the sun, Steve. That's for sure.
He had his moment lying on his back looking up at the sun, I think. Oh, dear. Less said about that, the better, I think. Andy, final one to you, actually. Let's look at it from a Canelo perspective. Obviously, we wish John well. I don't give him much of a chance myself. But is Canelo kind of wrapping up his career? It feels to me like this is the final chapter, like the final run after losing to Bivol. Is he maybe taking it easy this year? He could have fought in March. Instead, he's pushed it to Cinco de Mayo. Then you would imagine he maybe fight twice in the year, again in September. Is he taking it easy, having one off and then back to business? Or do you feel like me, like he turned pro at 15, 17, 18 years ago, and here he is now fighting so many pounds north of his original weight? It kind of feels like he's in those last stages, that last big run at titles.
Yeah, you wonder as well. He's about 32. Maybe he's just starting to kind of slip over the hill.
Maybe he had enough. All that money he's made.
Well, there's that as well, mate. But obviously, the injuries have started to pile up a little bit. He had problems with the knee. I think the elbow was a problem. He needed the surgery on the wrist after the Golovkin win. So these are starting to pile up. And you mentioned, fighting for like pro at 15, and fighting the level he's been fighting at, shall we say? At
140, he weighed in at 139 in his first fight.
That's right, obviously, and then obviously he's come up the weights. He's probably fighting now. He's maybe his optimum weight as well. It's a hard one actually. I think it's just about rinsing out the rest of his deal possibly. Obviously, having his first fight back in Mexico, and how long is that now actually? I'm just going to scroll down here see if I can find the last fight. Would it be Ryan Rhodes possibly? Maybe.
Oh God, you're going back a while then. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's been a while ago. So yeah, it's an odd one actually. I think after this, maybe Bivol next. Who are we looking at potentially from fighting after that?
Sorry, Cintron, he fought in 2011, but that was only 2 fights after Rhodes, Andy. So you're pretty around that kind of area. Sorry. Yeah.
Aye, so it's some sort of homecoming. I actually suspect that the fight might even go the distance. Actually, as long as if John keeps it straight shots, jab and left hand, and just try and kind of adopt what Bivol was doing, jab, move, just make it difficult. I think it might make Canelo get a wee bit kind of jumpy because obviously he's going to be fighting at home. He's going to some amount of expectation on him to deliver the goods, look good doing it, maybe even get a knockout. So he'll be under pressure. So if Ryder can somehow take the crowd out of it a little bit, make it a bored negative fight at some point, but try and win some rounds, especially early doors, because John can be a wee bit of a slow starter. But if he can bag some of the early rounds and and he's still in the fight by the midway point, he's going to start fancying himself and start pick up the pace. Maybe he's the naturally stronger guy. Possibly, we'll wait and see on the night. Definitely, if he's on the inside, he'll need to try and make it count, and especially grapple with Canelo, and then let him try and get the left hand off. And you just never know. Canelo might be wary with throwing the left hand as well because after having surgery, what happens when it goes during the fight? It takes away his main weapon. So it's a hard one. I suspect Canelo probably wins on points, like running about the kind of 117, 111 type. But in terms of your main point, I see Canelo maybe kind of like washing out in the next 2 years, possibly. Just runs as much money as possible, then away he goes. Probably starts up his own kind of promotional business. I think he's got that with Eddie at the minute, kind of get his own fighters, own cards, that type of thing. So I think that'll be his route the next couple of years, become a wee bit more involved in the sport and that. But yeah, I suspect he might be retired in the next couple of years, possibly.